Hello, everyone. I want to welcome Brianna McWilliam. She is an attachment and creative arts therapist. And today we are going to do a live follow up regarding a video we did around expressing needs in romantic relationships. I'm going to let Brianna introduce herself because you guys already know me. Brianna, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Brianna McWilliam, and I am a licensed and board certified creative arts therapist. And I've been in the field for about 13 years now, and I am just wild about talking about love and relationships, and in particular, helping individuals that struggle with insecure attachment go from feeling kind of stuck and or fearful in their relationships to moving into a place of what I call self-sovereignty, so that they can call in the soul-shaking, passionate partnerships that they want. And I usually approach this from a psycho-spiritual perspective through the framework of creative arts interventions and attachment theory.
That's awesome. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of we had this video where Brianna and I talked for probably a good hour, 45 minutes about expressing needs, and we got in some really deep, important stuff. And one of the questions that came up in our audience was Brianna talked about this inner child work, and there's some people wrestle with their identity about being a people pleaser, and so we're going to kind of dive into that. And so the question is, um, as I'm doing this inner child work and I come up against this people pleaser identity, who am I without that identity? And I'll have you go ahead and start with that and we'll go from there.
Well, that is the question and the fear that usually generates a tremendous amount of anxiety, right? Because we are feeling disconnected from whatever the inner self may be. And so when I say that I take a psycho-spiritual perspective on things, that's the vernacular that I have for it. But in other areas of study, like in psychology, they might refer to this as the unconscious self, or you might wounded inner child is a term that was coined by John Bradshaw, who talks about conditions of love, which people pleasing could be a demonstration of fearing conditions of love. So if I don't give all of myself, then I'm not truly loving. Then I haven't earned love. Then we become reliant upon the response to whatever it is we are giving to mirror back to us our value and our worth. And so then we get confused about, well, what is a need? What is a boundary? And we experience people establishing a boundary as a rejection or as an abandonment because we are sourcing so much of our sense of self from whatever feedback or stimulation we're getting from the environment. And we feel like if I just keep giving, then I will get what I need. And I kind of refer to that as like the martyred syndrome. I give and I give and I give, and yet this is what I get back. And all of that giving in our mind is sort of like a form of earning. It's making up for the not knowing who am I without this giving, right? And also beneath that, a belief that if I'm not giving, then I'm not of any value to anybody. So in some ways, and then there's the dark side of that, which is sometimes we give because we feel like we're in a more of a position of control if we are the one that is giving. And then we close ourselves off from receiving because receiving feels like a form of surrender. It feels like a form of loss of control. Because if you are reliant upon receiving something, then that can be taken away. And it's likely that at some point in your life, it was taken away. So that's where we start talking about conditions of love. That if you are not constantly giving, or you're not constantly molding yourself to the demands and or desires of the people around you, then you are of no value to them and love is taken away from you. But the thing is that when it comes down to it in intimate relationships, your yeses mean nothing without your nos. And your nos are what help to define who and what you are. And when we're talking about inner child work, it's typically that if you find yourself caught in a people-pleasing, or I might even add to that rescuer role, then it's usually because at some point the play as a child, like where you start exploring things and deciding what you like and what you don't like by just falling into that natural sort of stream of consciousness and imagination that you witness children having. For some reason, that was qualified as inappropriate or too loud or misbehaving or not paying attention or not doing what you're supposed to do. And so we learn how to cut off that flow of beingness and accommodate the world around us. So finding the inner child or finding the self that you are without all the people pleasing is really a matter of turning on that imagination again and going back to a place of playfulness and allowing that to flow through you.